Welcome to episode 28 of A Journey into the Light. Today I'm reading the Gospel of Mary, the biblical Mary of Magdala, or Magdala meaning tower. She is mentioned in several of the ancient texts as being a dear companion of Jesus Christ, so close to the Messiah that she aroused a bit of jealousy amongst the male disciples. As with so many of the papyrus leaves, much of Mary's Gospel is lost to deterioration and the illegal black markets. We know that the first 6 pages are missing, as well as 4 pages in the middle of the text. There have been fragments of it found through time in different places, among other Gospels, so we know that it was at one time widely distributed. To this day, scholars believe that 85% of all early spiritual writings are lost. I have faith that most likely there are copies of all of these documents in their completion, secreted away somewhere deep in the bowels of the Vatican. Here, Mary of Magdala relates the Savior's teachings of our battle against the material world that serves to entrap our immortal souls in darkness and ignorance. Inner peace, true enlightenment, and the salvation of our immortal souls lies in our spiritual natures and our ability to overcome the bodily passions of our flesh and earthly desires. As usual, the disciples seem to miss the point and end up embroiled in controversy over the whole matter. Jesus himself often had to deal with his 12 chosen in the same manner and during the most crucial events, such as in Luke chapter 9, verses 44 to 46, when Jesus foretold of his death, saying to them, quote, "Let these sayings sink down into your ears, for the Son of Man shall be delivered into the hands of men." But they understood not this saying, and it was hid from them, that they perceived it not, and they feared to ask him of that saying. Then there arose a reasoning among them, which of them should be greatest. End quote. No doubt Jesus must have been groaning within himself when he's telling them of his looming death, and they are all busy worrying over who amongst them will be the greatest. The same thing happened at the Last Supper in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 22, when Jesus told them that one of the 12 was about to betray him, to bring about his arrest and death. They all seemed most concerned over who would be accounted greatest among them. Peter was so bold as to claim he would go with Jesus both into prison and to death. Jesus immediately rebuked him, saying that Peter would deny even knowing him 3 times before the cock crows at sunrise. It's a shame we only have but an excerpt of Mary's Gospel, but for those who have ears to hear, this is what remains of the Gospel of Mary of Magdala. Will then matter be destroyed or not? The Savior said, "All natures, all formed things, all creatures exist in and with one another, and will again be resolved into their own roots, because the nature of matter is dissolved into its roots of its nature alone. He who has ears to hear, let him hear." Peter said to him, "Since you have now explained all things to us, tell us this, what is the sin of the world?" The Savior said, "Sin as such does not exist, but you create sin when you do what is of the nature of adultery or idolatry, meaning an improper mingling with the material world, which is called sin. For this reason the good came into your midst, to enter the essence of each nature, to restore it to its root. He went on to say, for this reason you come into existence and die. Whoever understands should understand. And then there's something missing. A suffering which has nothing like itself, which has arisen out of what is contrary to nature. Then there arises a disturbance in the whole body. For this reason I said to you, be of good courage. And if you are discouraged, still take courage over the various forms of nature. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. When the Blessed One said this, he greeted all of them, saying, peace be with you. Receive my peace for yourselves. Take heed lest anyone lead you astray with the words, come over here, or go there. For the Son of Man is within you. Follow him. Those who seek him will find him. Go therefore and preach the gospel of the kingdom. Do not follow any other words but what I have commanded you. And I have given you no law, as the lawgiver did, lest you be bound by them. When he said this, he left. They grieved and mourned greatly, saying, how shall we go to the Gentiles and preach the gospel of the kingdom of the Son of Man? If even he was not spared, how shall we be spared? Then Mary stood up and greeted all of them, and said to her brethren, do not mourn or grieve or be irresolute, for his grace will be fully with you all, and will defend you. Let us rather praise his greatness, for he prepared us and made us truly human. When Mary said this, their hearts changed for the better, and they began to discuss the words of the Savior. Peter said to Mary, sister, we know that the Savior loved you more than other women. Tell us the words of the Savior which you have in mind, since you know them, and we do not, nor have we heard of them. Mary answered and said, what is hidden from you I will impart to you. And she began to say the following words to them. I saw the Lord in a vision, and I said to him, Lord, I saw you today in a vision. He answered and said to me, blessed are you, since you did not waver at the sight of me. For where the mind is, there is your countenance and treasure. I said to him, Lord, the mind which sees the vision, does it see it through the soul or through the spirit? The Savior answered and said, it sees neither through the soul nor through the spirit, but the mind which lives between the two sees the vision. And here there are several pages that's missing before it continues. And Desire said, I did not see you descend, but now I see you rising. Why do you speak falsely when you belong to me? The soul answered and said, I saw you, but you did not see me or know me. You perceived the garment I was wearing, but you did not recognize me. After the soul said this, it went joyfully and gladly away. The soul approached the third power, called ignorance. This power questioned the soul, whither are you going? You were bound in wickedness, you were bound indeed, so do not pass judgment. And the soul said, why do you judge me, when I judged not? I was bound, though I did not bind. I was not recognized, but I recognized that all will be dissolved and go free, things both earthly and heavenly. After the soul had left the third power behind, it rose upward and saw the fourth power, which had 7 forms. The first form is darkness, the second, desire, the third, ignorance, the fourth, the arousing of death, the fifth is the kingdom of the flesh, the sixth is the wisdom of the folly of the flesh, the seventh is wrathful wisdom. There are 7 participants in wrath. The powers ask the soul, "Where are you coming from, killer of men? And where are you going, conqueror of space?" The soul answered and said, "What binds me is slain. What turns me about is overcome. My desire has come to an end, and ignorance is dead. In a world I was saved from a world, and in an image I was freed through a heavenly image. This is the fetter of forgetfulness that exists in the world of time. From here on I will reach rest through time, age, and eon in silence." When Mary had said this, she fell silent, since the Savior had spoken to her all of these things. But Andrew answered and said to the brethren, "Say what you think concerning what she said, for I do not believe that the Savior said this. For certainly these teachings are of other ideas." Peter also opposed her in regard to these matters, and asked the others about the Savior. "Did he then speak secretly with a woman in preference to us, without our knowledge and not openly? Are we to turn and all listen to her? Did he prefer her to us?" Then Mary grieved and said to Peter, "My brother Peter, what do you think? Do you think that I thought this up myself in my heart, or that I am lying concerning the Savior?" Levi answered and said to Peter, "Peter, you are always irate. Now I see that you are contending against the woman as if against an adversary. If the Savior made her worthy, who are you to reject her? Surely the Savior knew her very well. For this reason he loved her more than us. And we should rather be ashamed and put on the perfect man, to form us as he commanded us, and proclaim the gospel without publishing a further commandment or a further law than the one which the Savior spoke." And when Levi had said this, they began to go out in order to proclaim him and preach him.